In this video, we're going to have a look at how to create this using a compass, ruler and pencil. With most of these drawings, it always starts with a circle. For this one, we want quite a small circle. We don't want it to take up too much of our page because there's going to be bigger circles coming out of it. So you want to set your compass to something around 4 centimetres. And then you want at the centre of your page to draw yourself a circle. And again, with most of these constructions, what we're going to do is keep our compass set to the exact same we had it. We're going to go to the edge of our circle, put the pointy part in the edge of our circle and draw a arc, a very small arc that crosses the circle. We're going to take our compass point to where that arc and the circle meets, and we're going to draw another arc on the circle. I'm going to keep going round until I should have 6 points. So these 6 points make a perfect hexagon, a regular hexagon. But also, if you only use 3 of those points, they make a fantastic equilateral triangle, which is what we're after for this construction. So we join every other point to make our equilateral triangle. Now, what's really helpful with the 6 points is that now if I line up one of my corners of my triangles with the opposite side of the circle, I can draw a dash on my line, which is a midpoint of that side. So where this one here meets this here with a ruler, that becomes a midpoint. I do the same, my corner and opposite side, and that is a midpoint. And I work my way around until I've got 3 midpoints. Okay. Now these midpoints form the first circle. So I'm going to take my compass, I'm going to put the point in the corner of my triangle, I'm going to take my pencil to where the triangle meets the midpoint, and that's going to be the radius of my new circle. Okay, so I'm going to set that up. Once it's set up, it should stay the same now for the next 3 circles. So I draw that circle, and it's going to come out of this circle, and that's 1 circle. I then move to another corner, and that should, when I take it to my midpoint, be exactly the same distance. Now if it's just out by a little bit, change it slightly, but you should never need to change it too much, otherwise you've done something wrong with your construction. And draw another circle. And start to see how it's looking like what I've shown you at the start of the video. Again, take your point to the final corner and make sure your pencil lines up with the midpoint on the opposite side and draw that 3rd circle. Okay, now for the next section, I'm just going to change to a different colour to make it easier to see potential on the video. Now, the next circle is going to start from the midpoint, but it's going to need to be inside this circle, but not exactly the same size. So we get that sort of crescent shape that I showed you earlier. So we want it to start at the edge of that midpoint on the triangle, and we want to then come just inside the circle to get this crescent shape. So I first of all need to draw some lines. So I'm going to draw from the top of my triangle, not with that pencil, straight up. I'm going to go from the top of my triangle down to that midpoint, and I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay, I'm going to do that the whole way around. So go from a midpoint to the opposite corner in the triangle. And if it's not perfect, you might have to redo it. Okay, and we're going to go the whole way around and do the same. And again, that's not lined up perfectly, so I'm just going to alter it slightly and make sure I'm drawing it as accurate as possible. Now, the reason this isn't as accurate is because my pencil is not as sharp as it could be. So you always want really nice sharp pencils, and then you'll have it perfectly. Right, at this point, I'm going to line up, I'm going to draw a triangle from all of my midpoints of my original triangle. Okay, so we're going to draw a triangle from the midpoints. And again, I might use a different colour just to show you where that's going. So from the midpoints of the previous triangle, I'm going to join those up to make another triangle. So from the midpoints of the edge, and we'll get another triangle in the middle. Okay, now that is going to help me find where to draw my next circle. In fact, I've just realised I didn't need the green triangle at all. Looks pretty though, right? The point that I did need to draw my next circle is actually this point here. So where my two arcs from my bigger circles meet that pink line, okay? So where the arcs from the bigger circles meet the pink line is going to be where I put my pointy end. Then, let's turn this slightly so you can see, I'm going to make it the radius so that the radius is where the midpoint of the opposite side is, and draw a circle. So I'm just going to turn that back so it's easier to draw. I'm going to line that up nicely, and I'm going to draw my circle, which should come inside that circle. Make that nice sort of crescent moon shape. There we go, we've got one. Now if I go over this side now, so where my pink line meets the original circles is where I'm going to put my compass. Now you have to avoid the other new line you've just made, which is quite tricky to avoid, because otherwise you'll get a slightly different size, and it should match up with the midpoint on the opposite side of the triangle. And then we draw our circle that's just inside. Okay. And then again, avoiding the new lines, try and find your original circles, which will be the ones on the outside, and where they meet the pink line, put the sharp point in. And again, it should line up perfectly with the midpoint on the opposite side. And we can draw another. Don't worry if your compass moves, there should always be a point that you can put it back to. On the inside, okay. And we bring that around. Now to make it more obvious, that's when we're going to need to use a pen or something a bit darker. So you can use a felt tip or just literally a pen. I'm going to use the red pen for now. So we want to go over our lines, and I'm not going to do this perfectly, but we want to go over the lines that we want to keep, and then if you use pencil for everything else, you can rub out everything else. So we go over the lines. If you want the kind of pattern that I had earlier, then what you want to do is make sure that when you're going around this section, you stop when you get to this circle here, so that they look like they're overlapping. So you stop when you hit there, and then you look like they're overlapping. And that's all I'm doing here now, is going over these lines. And when I get to here, I'm going to stop so that I can draw this new one here. Now this isn't perfect and doesn't look pretty, because I'm not spending as much time as I did on this one. But this is what you should get. Have a go and see how you get on. It's all about practice.